All right, good morning. Welcome to episode 195 of the Michael Lab Show. I hope everyone's doing well out there. Um, big, big, big last 2 weeks in crypto. I had a great conversation with one of my cousin's fiance, and we had a conversation yesterday about cryptocurrency and what is like the future of it. Is it the future? Is it not the future? Is it just a gag? And he is a lot smarter than I am, more of a programmer. I have no experience with programming. I don't even know where to start. I'm more of the type where I don't really need to know how everything works. I just need to know if the final product works. And if the final product works, I like it. I want to use it. He's a critical thinker. He wants to know how the house is made. I just want to know how much I can get for the house. And I will make sure that the house is up to par, but I don't care about the inside of it. So I move very quickly. And with cryptocurrency, I've seen it as this. People ask me, what is the value of cryptocurrency? And I see when I hear that, the first thing I think of is technology, right? And then I think about the monetary system. And I think about how the monetary system has not been advanced at all for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's been, thousands of years. It's been backed by gold, and then things are made on top of gold, right? And then 1973, I think 1977, it was during the Richard Nixon. I think Richard Nixon was the gentleman who did it. He took gold and the U.S. dollar and he separated them. Deseparation, that would be coming back together. And then since then, the dollar has not been backed by anything. And it used to be backed by gold. And gold is a universal it's a universal mineral that people accept as value, a lot of value. And, a lot of reasons for that is there's something innate about the shininess of gold. And it sounds stupid, but it's one of the reasons why people think gold has so much value. That's one of the reasons. Another reason is because it's a scarce supply, right? There's not a lot of it out there. It's mined consistently, but it's mined slowly so that the value stays there. And it's always just been a sign of wealth. It's kind of weird how humans are so weird. Like, we're weird chimps. Like, it's been valuable because the way it looks, like a regular rock doesn't hold value because it doesn't look good. It's not accepted as a high value item. So the currency market has never really been advanced, and it holds power, but it moves slowly. Gold moves slowly. Like, if I want to transfer gold, if I want to transfer it here to California, you just got to think about the amount of money that goes into that, the manpower that goes into that. If I want gold, I can buy gold, I can hold gold, I can put it underneath my bed, but I can't really do anything with it. Technically you could buy things with it, but no one does that. So it's kind of a prehistoric technology. And then this thing comes along called Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's created. And then as it's created, this coffee has been here for a week. It's disgusting. And it's been created as a store of value. There's only 21 million of them made. They get mined a lot like gold. It's basically digital gold. And at the beginning, I was like, what the hell is this? And then you start seeing the way that the future is kind of going to this route where the most minimal amount of time between transactions, a transaction that requires the least amount of friction is going to be the winner. So what does that mean? It used to be you go to 7-Eleven, you grab your item, they say it's $4. You go in your wallet, you go in your pocket, you pull out your wallet, you open up the wallet, you grab $1, $2, $3, $4. You give them $4, you give them $5, right? Because you don't have 4 ones. You get $1 in return. Kind of it's a sluggish process. It works, right? It works. It's a good process. It's like walking to work instead of taking the horse, right? So then, years later, we have a new thing where we have a credit card now, where you open up your wallet, you pull this thing out, you slide it, you're done. You're done. You don't get change, you don't get anything in return. It's quicker. It speeds up the process even faster. Okay? And then you enter a world where now you have your phone, right? You have Apple Pay, where you just take your phone, you flip it, you put it on the thing, and you remove it, and you're good. Well, now we're entering a weird world where everything is digitalized, right? So you have virtual wallets. So you can walk into a store, literally walk out, and the store can scan your wallet and just take how much money that it needs to take. And everything around us has been advancing. Music, think about the tape, to CD players, to streaming. Think about cars. We can go the gas guzzlers, the Model T. Now we have Teslas that go to 0 to 60 in 1.1 seconds. Everything is advancing. Healthcare is advancing. Vaccine. I mean, we just crushed a virus in a year. That's incredible. That's incredible. I was at a party yesterday for my sister's graduation, and I'm looking around, and everyone's joking and laughing, and no distancing, and it's because we have this technology we've been able to get out a vaccine in less than a year. It's incredible. The amount of technology we have in certain fields is on another level. But currency is the one thing we just haven't been able to advance. And we haven't been able to advance because, one, it's developed and it's programmed and it's kept up. The reason why it's kept up is because it's backed by the government. And the government's slow, right? I mean, think about the average age of someone in a senator or a House representative. They're old. So they don't move quick. There's a bureaucracy. There's a lot of things you have to do. Anything that's owned by the government takes forever to accomplish, if it ever accomplishes anything. It's for a different time. But it moves slow. Bitcoin comes in, and they developed this thing where you can just you just make transactions across the world in about a quarter of a second, not even an eighth of a second. And there's a lot of pushback against it because it's scary. We don't understand we don't know what it is. Things come out where it's like, oh, it's used by criminals, and then there's this huge reputation of, the Silk Road, where, people are buying guns. It's the main currency for the black market. And we forget, for some reason, we've kind of disconnected the reality of regular currency. Regular currency, the US dollar, is one of the it's the biggest currency in the world, transactioned for crime, right? I mean, everything comes down to the US dollar. Drugs, guns, humans, people put hits on people. People put $25,000 on someone's head. And I think it's time where we have this crypto world come in and just destroy the financial system. And it's interesting to see all these countries, they don't know what to do with it, so they ban it. They put up these bans, and it's so weird. I was talking to my my cousin yesterday, and we made this analogy. It's like the old person at the I guess like the old person yelling at the young kid, but not having a reason to yell at them, just yelling at them because they're young, and like what they're saying is outdated. And that's what this Bitcoin is. You have the feds, you have these people like the Secretary of Treasury, Janet Yellen. You have Joe Biden. You have the President Xi Jinping, I think, of China. They're freaking out over this Bitcoin. They're trying to get rid of it. They don't know why they want to get rid of it, but they just know they want to get rid of it because they have this thing called the U.S. dollar, or the yen, I think it's called, that works, and they're scared. They're scared out of their minds. Instead of embracing it, there's something about Bitcoin that if you embrace it, you could be the first mover. And if you do it the right way, you could be the most powerful country in the world, at least financially. And say what you want about money, but the countries with the most money tend overall, on a large spectrum, probably do better than countries with the least amount of money. At least, maybe not the amount of money you have, but the ability to make money is a huge upside for countries. countries with the most assets, countries with the most resources, human capital, whatever, nature resources. It's a fascinating thing when you look at countries that are the most advanced countries, the countries that have natural resources. I was listening to, I think it was Michael Saylor, the CEO and founder of MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy is one of the most bullish companies on Bitcoin. He believes in Bitcoin as it's the end all be all. And there's an 8-part interview with Michael Saylor, with Michael Saylor and Robert Breedlove. There it is. There's this 8-part series with Robert Breedlove and Michael Saylor, and he talks about Bitcoin, and he loves it. It's a store of value for him. It's a digital gold, and it's going to take over the world. But it's interesting when you look at, he talks about all these countries that have been the greatest empires of all time. They all have direct access to natural resources, whether it be the Roman empires in the sea, whether it be the UK in the water, whether it be the United States in our coast, right? We have access to water. The landlocked countries are the ones who struggle the most because they depend on other countries for transportation of items. They depend on other countries for things that come out of the ocean. Like if you look at all of Africa, their access to water is so limited. It's so hard to have a flourishing economy if you don't have water. Plants need water. If you don't have plants, you can't feed your people. If you can't feed your people properly, you're probably not going to have the most innovation just because you're not getting the right minerals, vitamins to your brain. It's really fascinating. It's kind of a tangent, but it's I highly recommend listening to Michael Saylor. I think it's like a 9-part, 8-part series with Michael Saylor and Robert Breedlove. I think Robert Breedlove he's some type of programmer. But it's about time, and it's really been fascinating for these past 3 weeks to see crypto get hit hard. My portfolio got hit hard. I have about 60. I'm about 65-35 diversified between ETFs and crypto. And then I have I own one ETF, only $100 in something called Polygon, which is like I'm so dumb, but it's like a byproduct. It's on the Ethereum chain, whatever that means. Like I don't even know what that means. Let me just look real quick. It's on the Ethereum chain, and that's all the crypto I have. But it seems like that drop that we just had I think it shows the volatility of crypto. And I think if you can think about crypto, if you could disconnect it from stocks, it can really save the way you view it. I titled my last podcast, Bitcoin is over. Obviously it was clickbait. I still own, I didn't sell anything. It's really fascinating when you look at people and the way they react to things. It seems like the way you become a successful investor is if you just do the opposite of what everyone else is doing. People don't think about selling at all when their stocks are going off. People don't want to sell at all. If their stocks are going crazy, they just want to keep making the money. They don't want to sell. They don't even think about selling. If you have a goal, if your goal is to make 20 grand in a year, then yeah, you might sell. So you take that 20 grand so you can put a down payment on a house. Maybe some people do that. But people sell when the opposite is happening, when they're losing money, because they have the fear of possibly losing everything. So people will sell when they're at a loss. And this is what amplifies these huge drops in crypto. And you see it in the stock market. But the issue with the stock market is that when there's a huge sell-off, it's huge companies selling off, right? They get right back in. So there's always a stop. So like if you see Bitcoin, and this is just me, I'm not a financial advisor. Don't take any advice that I say on here at all. But if you watch, let's just say Bitcoin, for example, or let's just say Ethereum, which is another cryptocurrency. It had a sell-off, I think last Monday, whatever that was, a week ago. So the 18th or 19th or 20th, around that time, it had a sell-off of 50%. It had a 50% sell-off because it's wrapped in this idea of what it can be, but it's not 100% solidified. So once it starts slipping, people take like this idea of what it could be. Since it's not super black and white, they freak out and they sell off everything. But that's where the gains are made. when it goes down. If you have cash, I would buy. Personally, I didn't have cash. I didn't buy. But if I had cash, I would have bought. Because unlike stocks, when a stock fails, it fails because of news that makes the company more vulnerable to a loss and or shutdown, right? So like, for example, when Virgin Galactic was dropping 20, 30% in a week, 40% in a week, 50% in a week, it's because what they were trying to do, their plane flights kept on getting delayed, or they weren't successful. That leads to the path of, oh, this company could be failing. When a crypto fails, when a crypto drops, nobody really knows exactly why it's dropping. Is it dropping off of speculation? Is it dropping because China said they're banning it, even though they banned it back in like 2016 too, and it just took off? Why is it? It seems like it doesn't drop because of fundamentals. It drops because of fear and a herd mentality. So in the world of crypto, if you can take that and you can just flip it, when it drops, you buy, and when it goes up, you don't buy, you just hold. Maybe you buy, but I wouldn't buy. I did make that mistake. I bought in at Bitcoin when it was at 55. So as you can imagine, I'm down a lot of money. But in my opinion, it's going to come back twice as hard, 3 times as hard, because that's just what crypto does. Because it's not a stock, it's not a company, it's the future of currency, and it's here already. I mean, we're looking at like the internet. The internet was really founded in like 1970-ish. 1975. Let me look that up. I can look that up. Wipe off the water off my hands. When was the internet invented? 1983 is the official birthday. Internet, prior to this, the various computer networks did not have standard. Okay, so 1983. When did the internet become mainstream? 2000, 2005, maybe even 2010. Like I would say, let's say 2005 is when people really started using the internet. That's 22 years later. So with technology that has taken over the world to the point where every single thing you do every single day involves the internet in some form. It took 22 years, and even then, it wasn't until like 2010 where it absolutely took over the world. So 27 years. This thing was, people thought it was just, it was going to go in and out. People thought it was BS. People thought it was nonsense. It's a pyramid scheme. It doesn't make sense. One day you can literally talk to an object and it will give you an answer. Like, it's magic. It's magic. And I guarantee from 1983 to 2000, 17 years, there was a lot of people like, nope, this is a fad. This is going to go away. It's not going to be here forever. Crypto is the same thing, except crypto's only been around for 12 years. We're going to have another few years of people just saying it's complete nonsense. But in the same amount of time, 38 years since internet's been invented, in 38 years, starting from 2009 when Bitcoin was first mined, that's 49, 2037, it's going to be here and it's going to take over the world. That's just my opinion. I think technology can't be stopped, especially when technology is built off a sustainable thing, and it's something that has really strong potential. So that's my whole spiel on crypto. In my last podcast, I said Bitcoin is over. It was clickbait. I didn't sell any of it. I actually bought a little bit more Doge. That's one that I know a lot of people think is nonsense, but I'm in it for money. But also, who the hell knows, dude? Elon's a crazy dude. He says crazy things. He could easily kind of change the game. He could put Doge on the map, and people could start using Dogecoin the same way they use Bitcoin. I don't know. The guy says some crazy things. He does crazy things, but all I know is he's probably one of the top 10 smartest people in the world. And when you're dealing with people that smart, I don't think they do things that are traditional, and they're going to do things that piss a lot of people off. But that's fine. I'm one for the chaos. I enjoy the chaos. I think it creates beautiful rainbows once it's gone. And everything that man has taught, obviously I'm very biased on this topic. I have one of his quotes literally right behind me. I'm very biased on it, but I think for somebody who's created Tesla, who's created SpaceX, who's created Starlink, who's created Neuralink, who's created the Boring Company, who's created that one car track company that goes in the tunnel system thing. The Boring Company is the thing that bores, but then he has the other one where it drives through the Boring Company. It's a whole different company. I think it's hard to say this guy's wrong, and I think he's right on a lot of things, and I think he's taking us for a ride. But that's me. I love crypto. I think it's here to stay. I think if you have patience, you're going to be a huge winner. But I think if you're looking for a quick dollar, you're gonna resent Bitcoin a lot. You're gonna resent crypto a lot. If you're just in it for a quick dollar, you're gonna have a lot of hatred towards it. But if you're in it for the long run and you understand the fundamentals, I think it's gonna become your best friend. So that's just my opinion. But I want to talk about this one thing. Hopefully this doesn't get my podcast pulled. I don't think it will, because this is real facts. This is true information. I want to get it from a Wuhan, CNN, France Business, Yahoo News, Wall Street Journal. Okay. Hopefully Wall Street Journal doesn't make me pay for this. So this was intelligence on 6 staff at Wuhan. Oh, shit. See, they're going to make me pay for it. Well, maybe not. 10-minute listen. I don't know if I'm going to read. I probably won't read the whole thing, but I'll just read a little bit of it. So intelligence on 6 staff at Wuhan lab fuels debate on COVID-19 origin. Report says researchers went to hospital in November 2019, shortly before confirmed outbreak, adds to cause for probe of whether virus escaped lab. So we're about a year and 2 months after we started getting infected here, but the COVID was going on obviously since November in China, and a lot of stuff happened. So it first came here. We were going to flatten the curve. People were saying it's not as bad as it's supposed to be. And then Trump went on this tear of calling it the Chinese flu, the Wuhan virus, and he started making these. Trump does this thing where he says things that are accurate at times, but the way he says it, it seems like his whole intention is to not get the truth across, but to divide people even more. And if you're a Trump supporter, you're going to disagree with me. And if you're a non-Trump supporter, you're going to think I'm being easy on him. But in my opinion, I sit in the middle. I think I'm a libertarian at heart. Financially, I'm conservative. The rest, I think I'm a liberal on. Maybe guns, more conservative. But everything else, I legalize all drugs. Don't tax the hell out of me. So that's me in a summary. Unless I know where my taxes are going. And I think everyone should have health care. But I also I don't want to be taxed a lot. But he said these things that were very divisive. He called it the Chinese flu, which created a ripple effect in the Asian community, which led to a lot of pain and suffering for a lot of people from Asian descent. And because he said that, anything that he ever spoke about the coronavirus was dismissed as crazy, as conspiracy theory. So there was this guy named Brett Weinstein who was on the Rogan Experience early on, maybe it was even June. It was a long time ago. And he was saying this is not and by the way, YouTube, once again, this is talked about in the Wall Street Journal. So this is not me saying it. This is me reiterating what the Wall Street Journal says. So don't take me down for false information. If anything, take this guy down if this is all nonsense. And he was saying this is not a natural sickness. This is a weird virus. It attacks people differently. It runs the scale of sicknesses. Fever, can't get out of bed, chills, death, long-term effects, kills your cardio. It has everything. I just spoke to somebody recently at my job who was in a coma for 4 hours because of it. He had a 50-50 chance of life. And this was somebody who didn't take it too serious, and it got him good. He thought he was going to die. Like the hospital called his wife to say, hey, we got to come up here. There's a 50-50 chance. And, you know, this biologist, Brett Weinstein, was talking about, like, it doesn't make sense. This is not something you find in nature. This idea that it came from a bat doesn't seem plausible. And then it went, like, South Park did a movie on it. Like, South Park made fun of it. Like, it was actually hilarious. Matt Stone is a genius. He's the guy who creates South Park. And then there was this, like, animal that they were saying it came from. Oh, it came from this animal. And, you know, there's people saying, no, it came from the lab. It came from the lab. And we couldn't say that because of what Trump was saying about, he was calling it the Chinese flu. The Kung flu, which was actually hilarious, but is very wrong. You can't say it. It was funny, but you can't say that. It's a shitty thing to say, and no one would disagree with that. It's a shitty thing to say. But because he said these things, we couldn't accept it. And now we're, you know, it is the 24th of May, and we're sitting here, and the Wall Street Journal is putting out an article saying intelligence on sick staff at Wuhan fuels debate on COVID-19 origin. The researchers from China's Wuhan Institute of Virology became sick enough in November 2019 that they sought hospital care, according to a previously undisclosed U.S. intelligence report that could add weight to growing calls for a full probe of whether the COVID-19 virus may have escaped from the laboratory. And if it did escape the laboratory, there has to be repercussions for China. But what do you do when China is your biggest business partner, when China is a huge force in the world? They're a powerful nation. People don't realize China is, I think their economy is expected to grow bigger than ours in like 5 years. If not, it's already bigger than us. Like, that's not a country that you can just stop working with. Like, it's not just a country. It's not like we're dealing with, Argentina, where you can just stop working with Argentina and you have enough natural resources and human resources and capital resources to produce on our own. Like, we use China as, you know, we use the lack of child labor laws to create child slavery so we can have a life that we live, so we can have affordable shoes, so we can have all these things, these riches. We use what they don't enforce for ourselves, which is ethically, you know, there's a whole conversation for that. And should we do that? Should we not do that? Is me wearing Nike supporting child slavery? Is me, you know, all these things. Like, there's a lot of things that you could go into. But the point is, China is a powerhouse. They're a powerhouse. And if you say China, or if you take your fingers and you point it at them and say, hey, you guys are going to pay for this, what does that look like? What does making China pay for something look like? Do we want to know? Like, do we actually want to know? Do we just blow it off in the wind and act like it never happened? Which is kind of the route we're taking. The details of the reporting go beyond a State Department fact sheet issued during the final days of the Trump administration, which said that several researchers at the lab, a center for the study of coronavirus and other pathogens, became sick in autumn 2019, quote, with symptoms consistent with both COVID-19 and common seasonal illnesses. The disclosure of the number of researchers, the timing of the illnesses, and the hospital visits come on the eve of a meeting of the WHO decision-making body, which is expected to discuss the next phase of an investigation into COVID-19's origin. Current and former officials familiar with the intelligence about the lab researchers expressed differing views about the strength of the supporting evidence for the assessment. One person said that it was provided by an international partner and was potentially significant, but still in need of further investigation and additional corroboration. That's my other thing. It's not like the other reasonings are strong. Like, this idea that it came from a bat or from that armadillo-like animal, those aren't hard evidence. Like, that stuff, it could be debated. So it's weird that we kind of, the thing that we think caused it is not a solidified factual information. But this other thing that seems like it has stronger supporting evidence is also not solidified. But we go with another one that is still up in the air too. Another person described the intelligence as stronger, quote, the information that we had coming from the various sources was of exquisite quality. It was very precise. What it didn't tell you was exactly why they got sick, he said, referring to the researchers. November 19, 2019 is roughly when many epidemiologists and biologists believe SARS-CoV-2, the virus behind the pandemic, first began circulating around the central Chinese city of Wuhan, where Beijing says that the first confirmed case was a man who fell ill on December 8th, November, December. So that's a whole month after there already were being reports of people sick very similar to COVID-19. So a whole month went by. They said November to December. The Wuhan Institute hasn't shared raw data, safety logs, or lab records on its extensive work with the coronavirus in bats, which many consider the most likely source of the virus. So that's fascinating too. Like if there was no guilt on them, they should just share all the information. But they're not. They're not sharing all the information. Ji Zhengli, the top bat coronavirus expert at the Wuhan Lab Institute of Biology, she said COVID-19 didn't leak from her laboratories. Dr. Shi shown in 2017. I've also heard this lab was cited a few times for lack of protection. The quality of the lab, there just wasn't. It needed to be fixed. China has repeatedly denied that the virus escaped from one of its labs. On Sunday, China's foreign ministry cited a WHO-led team's conclusion after a visit to the Wuhan Institute of Virology, or WIV, in March. Virology, or WIV, in February, that a lab leak was extremely unlikely. The U.S. continues to hype this lab leak theory, the foreign ministry said in response to requests for comment by the Wall Street Journal. It is actually concerned about tracing the source of trying to divert attention. That's another thing. It's weird. It's like, well, it came from a bat, right? If that's what the theory is, and this lab was working on bats with coronavirus. Okay, it came from a bat, but where did the bat come from? This is like you got to skip so many logical circles to just get to this idea that it couldn't have come here. The Biden administration declined to comment on the intelligence, but said that all technically credible theories on this origin of the pandemic should be investigated by the WHO and international experts. We continue to have serious questions about the earliest days of COVID-19 pandemic, including its origins within the People's Republic of China, said a spokeswoman for the National and NSC, National Security Council. Quote, we're not going to make pronouncements that prejudge an ongoing WHO study into the source of COVID-19, the spokeswoman said, quote, as a matter of policy, we never comment on intelligence issues. Beijing has also asserted that the virus could have originated outside China, including a lab at the Fort Detrick military base in Maryland, and called for the WHO to investigate early. Whoa, that's fascinating. It could have originated from Maryland? What does that even mean? Command installation located in Frederick, Maryland. Historically, it was the center of the U.S. biological weapons program from 1943. Whoa, that's fascinating. China accuses U.S. of hyping theory escaped from lab in Wuhan. Whoa, that's fascinating. Most scientists say that they have seen nothing to corroborate the idea that the virus came from a U.S. military lab, and the White House has said there are no credible reasons to investigate it. China's National Health Commission and the WIV didn't respond to requests for comment. Ji Zhengli, the top bat coronavirus expert at WIV, Wuhan Institute of Virology, has said that the virus didn't leak from her laboratories. Of course she would say that. She told the WHO-led team that traveled to Wuhan earlier this year to investigate the origins of the virus that all staff had tested negative for COVID-19 antibodies, and there had been no turnover of staff on the coronavirus team. Marianne Koopmans, a Dutch virologist on that team, told NBC News in March that some WHIV staff did fall sick in the autumn of 2019, but she attributed that to regular seasonal sickness. Quote, there were occasional illnesses because that's normal. There was nothing that stood out, she said. Maybe one or two. It's certainly not a big deal, big thing. It is unusual for people in China to go straight to the hospital when they fall sick, either because they got better care there or lack access to a general practitioner. COVID-19 and the flu, while very different illnesses, share some of the same symptoms, such as fevers, aches, and a cough. Still, it could be significant if members at that time at the same team working with coronavirus went to hospital with similar symptoms shortly before the pandemic was first identified. Quote, I'm very doubtful that 3 people in highly protected circumstances in a level 3 laboratory working on coronavirus would all get sick with influenza that put them in the hospital or in severe conditions all in the same week, and it didn't have anything to do with the coronavirus, he said, adding to the researcher's illness may represent, quote, the first known cluster of COVID-19. It just seems so obvious. It's one of those things that it makes perfect sense, but we just cannot point fingers because of the way that the previous administration dealt with it and the repercussions. Like, what do you do? What do you do? Like, do you just cross China off do you just cross them off the map of the world? Like, no, you have to work with China. China is very important. So, I don't know. It's fascinating to see what's going on there. I want to finish off this podcast talking about kind of a serious matter. 1 second. So, as of today, yesterday, I'm recording this podcast, and this person that I didn't know too well. I knew relatively well. Great person, young person, too young. Ended up. No, I don't want to talk about that. I just want to say that there is a lot of distractions in this world, and I'm guilty of it. I'm very guilty of it. There's a lot of things in this world, that can distract you from the important things, and those things that distract us don't bring value. They bring intrinsic feelings of dopamine rushes. They give you these feelings that you're accomplishing something. But the people that are around you, the people that you associate yourself with every day, those are what brings life meaning, right? It's one of the reasons why I only listen to comedian podcast. I listen to Rogan every once in a while. He doesn't have a comedian on. He has, a serious topic. But overall, 90% of the time I listen to podcast, the host is a comedian. And the reason why I do that is because I think enjoying life is the most important thing you can do. I think if there was a study that took laughter and quality and amount of time someone lived, it goes to the roof. Like my grandma, she laughed to the day she passed away, and she lived a very healthy life, and she lived a long time. She was a very happy person. And you just don't know when the plug is pulled from somebody, and it can be at any time. And I think the things that we have to do every day, I think the things that it's your duty to do every day is to live a life where you can laugh the most. You can find joy the most, because it's so short. It's so short. If you look at our life from a cosmological level, it's nothing. It's people say it's a blink of an eye, but it's less than that. And what you do every day, I think, is hyper important. I've just within the past 48 hours, honestly, as I'm recording this, I'm saying 48 hours because you guys are watching 48 hours ago when I recorded it. But just for me, I've already changed the way I'm living my life. Remember to constantly laugh. Remember to constantly tell the people that are around you that you care about them. Don't ever stop doing that. Remember that age does not mean life is guaranteed. The younger you are doesn't mean that you're going to see more life ahead of you. The older you are doesn't mean that you only have a little bit of life left. Age does not care. It's a made-up thing. It doesn't matter. Your time could be whenever. And it's important to spend every day making sure that your heart is as full as possible, and that love is shared among people around you, that smiles are tattooed on your face, and that evil and pain is controlled, managed, and kept to a minimal state. And by doing that, I think we can all better ourselves. It's been a hell of a year, man. A lot of hatred. And we can fix that. We don't have to do that. We don't need hatred. We can lead with love. We can give people more credit. We can actually be real advanced people. If we want to actually continue to advance, we have to strip away this idea that if you are this, then that's bad. We have a brain that is highly functioning, and we still cannot get over the fact that some people are conservative, that some people are liberal. We are such advanced chimps, but we are fucking idiots too. We are so dumb in so many levels. We let other people's opinions ruin our lives. We have to stop that. We got to accept people for who they are. We got to understand that people are flawed. We got to give people second chances and third chances. We got to protect ourselves, and we got to laugh more. We got to lead with love and acceptance. But just be good to one another, care for one another, and let's make 2021 a good year. Let's make it a good year. Let's stop attacking people when we don't know them at all. Let's stop categorizing people and washing them off. I guarantee if you are a strong Democrat or if you're a strong Republican, you can find a best friend in the opposite party, because parties mean nothing. They mean nothing. So that's all I got to say. Thank you guys so much for listening. Bitcoin for days, crypto for days. Coronavirus, who the hell knows? We may never know. But what we do know is the time is ticking, and what you do before your timer's up, you have control over. Nobody else has control over. Be well. Stay queer. That's a good word, I think. Stay gay. That's a happy word. I love you guys. See you guys in episode 196. Peace out.